So that was quick. Quick find. Small change to the deck list from what I did before. I dropped Abrupt Decay to test a second Assassin's Trophy. Hey, Super Saiyan, thank you for the subscription. Thanks, Chris. I caught it. Hope you guys like the little thing that pops up. I think it's awesome. Dr. Doom is amazing. This hand's okay. I have a turn 1 Noble, a turn 2 Duskwatch, a turn 3 Company. It's an okay hand. This abides by all the rules I have. Yeah, I gotta prime myself too. This abides by all the rules I have for a keepable hand. So like a turn 1 Dork into a turn 3 Company is, in the dark, a perfectly acceptable hand to keep. Yeah, anybody with Amazon Prime, you can sub me. You have to do it once a month, but you can sub me at no cost to you. It's a way to support me and the work I do at no cost to you. Just once a month, you just got to remember to press, what, 3 buttons? And I would certainly appreciate that. So opponent put 2 cards on top. I feel like a card like Serum Visions is much more powerful on the draw than on the play, because their opponent doesn't know what they're up against. I fetched a basic forest there. Main board, I only have two cards I need to cast off of black mana, and have neither of them in my hand. So I'd rather, against a potential Blood Moon deck, have a double forest. Also, a double forest is much better against Chord, and I don't want to shock myself yet, because I'll be shocking myself with this land to most likely get a white source. Depending on what my opponent does here, I'm either playing Shalai or Coco next turn. Or if they make me discard something, Eternal Witness to buy back whichever they made me discard. Okay. So Field of Ruin, Steam Vents Island, we're playing against Jeskai, right? So they could mana leak right now. They don't yet have Cryptic mana up. So do I think actually right now, well, I can. I don't think I want a Company. I think I just want to drop Shalai right here. Remand. Okay, now we know. I need a haircut bad. Maybe I'll get one tonight before regionals tomorrow. This is what happens when winter happens. I just kind of hermit up. Yep, Jason Summon was the right play there. We need to draw a land here. We did not. So I'm just going to flood the board with Dorks and have tons of mana next turn. Yes, yes. So if I didn't see Jace, I still might have brought in Plaguecrafter. So far, I don't see any white mana. This should just be like a blue-red moon, which Field of Ruin would make a lot more sense in a 2-color deck than a 3. His opponent has had fetches and is not fetched for white, which seems better for me because that means no Terminus and no Teferi. So Plaguecrafter, if they were just regular Jeskai, I'd probably bring it no matter what, because it can hit a Geist, it can hit a Planeswalker, it can pretty much hit anything that I'm probably worried about. So we have plenty of mana here. I'm going to attack with into Jace and leave up Coco mana. I assume they have a way to protect him. Magma Spray. Okay. That is certainly one way to get rid of that card. So this is still game one, so I'm less prepared for this type of matchup than I would be traditionally. So my game plan here is to actually use Coco instead of Shalai. If I can cheese out a quick combo kill, either one, I think I'll be fine. Okay. The problem is our opponent is drawing a ton of extra cards and is very prepared for a potential combo. I assume when I accompany, it's going to get Cryptic Tear. Or some counter spell. Which hopefully leaves me with enough mana to untap with Shalai. Okay, remand, and they still have Cryptic up. Okay. One, two, three, four, five, six. So I have enough money to Druid and do something. I could do that. I cannot kill Jace, so unless I company into a Noble. So I'm actually just going to lead off with a Druid and see what happens. Yeah, this is just a blue-red something deck. So far, it just looks like a blue-red moon. I don't see Thing in the Ice. I don't see Phoenix. It doesn't mean they don't run them. Although Phoenix and Jace, they're not non-bows. They can certainly work well together. Chosen modes, sure. Okay. Opponent choosing to draw 3 instead of unsummon the Devoted Druid signals to me a position of strength. They're not worried about the Devoted Druid here. And I do have lethal in my hand if somehow I'm able to combo off. I doubt I'll be able to with how much removal they're probably going to have, but I do have Vizier and then Ewit buy back the Duskwatch for the win. Which is one reason I wanted to drop the Druid there. Thing in the Ice and Jace. Okay. Alright. So this is like that deck that I played at the 10K. Sure. Opponent is not dead. Interestingly enough, this might actually be a worse matchup for us than Phoenix. So this deck will definitely run Anger of the Gods and things like that. And Cryptic is a much bigger beating than... Phoenix we can outlast. Thing in the Ice, as long as you deal with Thing in the Ice, we can outlast Phoenix. We can't outlast the Jace deck. I'm dropping Vizier only so if I somehow am able to resolve this company, I might be able to win just with infinite life. Because I need, company will only give me 2 pieces. And Vizier would be the 3rd there. Which I think is an okay line to try to cheese out a win facing down a Thing in the Ice and a Jace. Okay, targeting Bolt, that's fine. Bolt targeting me. With my opponent effectively tapped out here. So I'm not favored to win here. If I let my opponent untap, they will flip Thing in the Ice, punch me for 7. After that, I can then try and resolve a company after they punch me for 7. So this will put me down to 13. Punching me for 7 put me down to 6. I can try to cheese out a win right now, or I can wait till after they flipped Thing in the Ice. Because I already have Vizier in hand, I think that I have to try it right now, because let's play it out right now. I need exactly Finks and Seer and my opponent not to have a bolt in their hand, right? We already know they have 2 bolts and a Magma Sprice. It's 3 out of probably 5 singleton burn spells they're running. If I company right now and get the infinite life right now, I can actually it doesn't win because they have Jason play, but maybe they'll still scoop. I can set myself up to do well. I'm trying to think of a position where I just don't lose this game. So if they put me down to 13, swing, I'll go down to 6. I assume they'll have an answer to Collected Company after they brainstorm. I think I have to company now. And I did not hit it. So my opponent does not know I'm the black variant. I could tell them that right now by playing Finks. All they've seen right now are green-white cards. I don't think there's any advantage in not telling my opponent that I have Finks in the deck. So I did not hit the Seer, so I could not buy myself. Hitting the Seer wouldn't win me the game because they have Jason play and Jason can mill me. But hitting the Seer and getting a ton of life would make it so I don't just die to Thing in the Ice, which was my line. I also would have scryed to a Collected Company, so I have a good chance to rebound. Unfortunate after they flip Thing in the Ice, so then I can just take chump shots from Thing in the Ice for the rest of the game and try to chain some companies together to win that way. Unfortunately, it didn't work out that way. That was my line. I took a riskier play because this is a bad spot in a very bad matchup. And I think a huge part of knowing Modern, and I think in knowing Magic too, especially knowing this deck, is knowing when you just have to kind of go for it, because if you're in a bad spot in a bad matchup, you need to take a more aggressive line. And that's what I did here. It didn't work out, but I still think it was the right line. I still think it was the right play. Yep. I mean, I'm just dead here. They've Snap Bolt. So they actually had a Bolt in hand. They just didn't care about it. Just interesting. They can unsummon 1 card and Bolt another. So I need to drop 3 blockers to not die here. So I'm still just dead. Okay. Sideboarding in this matchup is interesting. There's a lot of different cards I could bring in. In all actuality, I could see a universe where I bring in all 15 cards. I'm not going to, but I can see a universe where I do. This is a Blue Moon Thing in the Ice deck, which is the worst type of Blue Moon deck we can play against. And I do not have Voice of Resurgence to save me this time. I'm referencing, you can check out my YouTube channel. I have a video there where I beat Blue Moon Thing in the Ice on a win-and-in. And Voice of Resurgence did a lot of work there. So what I don't want here, I am not expecting 2 combo. Okay, so I'm actually going to trim chords. Let's just pull up my my guide here. So I've not made a guide yet for Blue Moon. That will be on my to-do list. Generally for a Jeskai control list, which is kind of mimics having Jace, Infinite Life doesn't do much. I'm going to be taking out some combo here. So I actually don't think these are maybes. These are definites. I actually think these are some of the weaker cards in the matchup because Kitchen Finks just protects me from being burnt out, but it doesn't actually necessarily win me the game thanks to Jace. So I could side out the entire life gain package here because they do have answers to it. And in that case, I would probably bring a Knight of Autumn just to have extra beaters. Scavenging Ooze seems decent here because you're going to be killing a lot of my creatures. Trophy answers all of their threats. Sin Collector is a fantastic 2-for-1 here. Plague Crafter is also really, really good. I don't want Eidolon because this is not a Phoenix deck. Eidolon would just stop Snapcaster and Thing in the Ice. I don't think it's good enough for that. I still need 5 cuts. Thing in the Ice just beats me, so I think I need to chain some removal there. I do like Gideon here. 15 seconds. Let's do that. So I did keep in the Ballista combo just because I wanted to keep in Ballista to hit Jace there. I'll keep this. This hand is pretty solid here. It actually does kind of what I want to do. So my plan here is to go turn 2 Druid, turn 3 Sin Collector, and then Trophy a Threat, Eternal Witness, buyback Trophy, and do that again. Yes, I'll be playing this at regionals. That's why I'm testing the 2 trophies instead of the trophy and the decay. Basic Forest was a perfect draw because that way I don't have to worry about Blood Moon as much because Windswept Heath had to fetch a black source based on my hand, and I don't have to worry about being Blood Mooned. I shouldn't have to worry about being Blood Mooned because our opponent shouldn't keep Blood Moon in against me. But I've been having a lot of people online keep Blood Moon in situations where I don't necessarily think it's correct, and maybe I'm wrong here. So Druid is just going to die here, so I'm just going to still just jam Sin Collector, stick with my curve. Cryptic's the most singular powerful card in their hand, aside from Jace. I don't care as much about a Braid. Played Scalding Tarn. Opt was a very good draw, opponent. Yes, I don't anticipate me winning this matchup. This is a tough matchup. I'd like to steal a game if I can. Thing in the Ice and Cryptic decks are generally difficult, and this is putting both of them together. And to boot, they can also run Anger of the Gods. So I can trophy this young Pyromancer just to get rid of it, but that would just... I want to save the trophy for Jace if I can. I'm going to keep Sin Collector back. If I attack now, it'll just trade with an Elemental. If I keep it back, it might stop them from attacking with their young Pyromancer. Hey there, Spanx. How's it going? Is that how you say your name, Spanksy? Alright. They played an island, so they still have a Steam Vent in their hand. Unless I missed it. No, I don't think I missed it. That was their turn 1. I like third Sin Collector. in a lot of matchups. I don't know if I want 3 Sin Collectors to beat something like Jund or Black Rune X. I think 1.5 Sin Collectors would be perfect there. Okay, let's see here. Walking Ballista was a very good draw to beat Young Pyromancer. I think my game plan here is to trophy Eternal Witness buyback trophy. Next turn, I want to Walking Ballista and gun down their board. I'm going to give them one more turn with Young Pyromancer. I've been impressed with Walking Ballista just as a fair card in this deck, to be honest, because we do have a good deal of mana. I wish I had I actually wish I had different art trophies, then I could know if that would have been an Abrupt Decay, because I'm testing the 2 trophies right now instead of a 1 Abrupt Decay, 1 trophy. And I'm curious if this trophy would have been a Decay, because a Decay would not have been as good in that spot as trophy was. Interestingly, my opponent did not get a land off of that trophy, which means they only run 2 basic islands in a Field of Ruin deck. That can't be right. I have 5 mana available. Opponent has 2 cards in hand. I think let me check on the chat. Decay was best when Spirits was a top tier deck. Spirits is dropped in popularity, and as a result, Abrupt Decay, Spirits and Humans, so as a result, Abrupt Decay has dropped a little bit. We were seeing a lot more, I'm seeing a lot more Tron and Teferi / Chase decks, and in that case, I want Trophy. Also getting, last night, the guy had turn 3 Karn against me, 2 matches in a row. He was in the play. I had the turn 3 win. He was in the play, so he was able to Karn the Druid, and I really just don't like losing to Tron, so... my lines here are I can Walking Ballista. Ideally, I can kill both threats right now. I can play Walking Ballista, kill Pyromancer, and trophy the Thing in the Ice. The problem is they have 3 open mana with 2 cards in hand. So I think what I want to do, I could also Company, but I'd rather double spell if I can this turn. If I lose Walking Ballista, I can always buy it back with an Eternal Witness later. So I think what I want to do is trophy the Thing in the Ice, see if they have a response. Why would you run Field of Ruin and only 2 basic islands? That seems like a mistake, right? It feels very good to trophy a Tron piece, especially if we can't turn 3 them, or if we have the turn 3, but we know that they're just going to have Tron in place. Okay, opt, digging for a counter magic spell. They put a card on top, which means that they probably have it. No. Interesting. I don't know if I want my opponent to untap with Young Pyromancer. So I think I'm actually, because I have my other card, if I didn't have Collected Company in hand, I would be much less inclined to do this play. But because my hand is very powerful right now, I don't mind this interaction, which is not favorable to me. Okay, that's fine. Okay, opponent will have 4 elementals in play. 5 elementals in play. Okay, so they're just going to try to beat me with a fair game of 5 elementals, and I have a company in hand. I can handle this. Unfortunately, I don't have Kitchen Finks, in my deck, and I only have 2 Knight of Autumns and 1 Scavenging Ooze for life gain. So this is actually a situation where Kitchen Finks would be heavily ideal, but I do not have him. So opponent must have topped a Bolt with that opt. They have 1 card in hand. I don't know if I want to let them draw another. So I think on their upkeep I'm going to Company before they draw, to try to stop them from drawing an extra counterspell here. And that way, if they have the counterspell, they're forced to spend their mana here. I'm going to go down to 4 off of this attack. I think I'm just going to take the combo and hope for another piece. Because then I have some pretty good live draws here. I don't know if they're running Electrolyze, but if they are, I'm dead anyway. So I will block here. That's not what I want. Bait out a potential counterspell with the Vizier. If they have Cryptic, I'm dead anyway, because they can Cryptic tap my team. I'm going to gain life here. Against a Snap Bolt deck, I'd like to gain some life. So my best possible draw in this scenario is Eternal Witness, so I can buy back the Ballista and just win the game. So I have 3 Eternal Witnesses, right? No Chords. And I have 2 Dusk Watches that aren't on the bottom. Opponent put a card on bottom with the opt. If I go to take this, I go down to 4. On the swing back, I put my opponent down to 6. I'm not winning this race, but I still would like to try to keep a live top deck here. Seers are not in. No, I sided out the entire life gain combo because they have Jace. I will pay 0. Why didn't my opponent counter my creature there? So when it comes down to blocking, they're going to swing for 5. I am at 5. If I do this, I'll block 1, 2, 3 of them and go down to lightning bolt range. I think I'm fine with that. This is the best way to clock out my opponent. Okay, there's a Tarn. They actually played another island, so they chose not to take, they had the 3rd island. They chose not to get it off of the trophy. I mean, at Blood Moon, assuming they were on Blood Moon, you can't run a blue-red deck and not at least have Blood Moon in your 75. I feel like that's a mistake, unless they're just all in on the Field of Ruin plan, which is probably, it's probably rough to do both. I like how I put myself here in a situation where if my opponent attacks, and that they drew a land here, and they attack, I have lethal. I put them in a spot where, because I've been losing this game all game, I put themselves in a spot where I made them consider attacking. True, true. Infinite mana I can pay with Logic Knot. That's right. That's a good call. But I mean, like, not even making me do it. I don't know. What costs 5 mana? Draw 3. Okay, so they're digging for a lightning bolt here. That was a good draw from my opponent. And if they have lightning bolt, they win. If they have electrolyze, they should win here as well. Well, maybe not win, but be in a very good spot. Okay, yep. Why would you slow play the lightning bolt, opponent? That doesn't seem to make any sense. Grab more coffee, be right back. Okay, so I just lost to Blue Moon. Thing in the ice. An argument could have been made that I misplayed, and I should have attacked with 1 less creature, put my opponent down to 8, and that way I wasn't dead to a lightning bolt. But with my opponent being in top deck mode, and the only thing I lost to was a lightning bolt or a snapcaster mage, I'm okay with the line I chose. Yeah, I mean, they drew 3 cards and drew a lightning bolt. I can't be. If they hadn't hit the lightning bolt, they were dead. Or at least I was in a very good position to win the game. With infinite mana and a arguably better board state. I still think attacking the way I did was the correct line, even though I did lose. The only thing I may have done different, and I'll have to check the tape to see if I commented on it, is hold back 1 less creature, put my opponent at 8 instead of 6. But I wanted to pressure my opponent's life total to a situation where they had to consider not attacking. If they had just tap decked a land, they would have not been able to attack right there. I would have blocked, gone down to 3 life, and then swung for lethal. Because my opponent does have a lot of air in their deck. I mean, I do too. Birds of Paradise was certainly not a very good draw in the situation I was in. But if I had drawn a Scavenging Ooze right then, even just a Scavenging Ooze, I think I could have run away with that game. And you can kind of see the difference there too between post and side matches. Being able to remove their threats and kind of grind them out with Eternal Witness is very strong. That is not how it would side, just for anyone wondering, that is not how it would sideboard against most blue-red decks, but if they run Jace, Infinite Life does not win the game. Infinite Life does delay the game to a point where we hopefully can get an inevitable board state, but it does not win the game, so it's not as valuable. Man, no one wants to play against me right now. I guess they just know that Company is a hot deck and never want. I'm not going to lose twice, right? Right? Let's knock on some wood or something. So the stream today, kind of impromptu. I only have 5-minute notice. I had a free hour and a half, so said, you know what? I got the regionals tomorrow. I was going to do some playtesting. I'm still going to do some playtesting later, but I wanted to test the Abrupt Decay, the second Abrupt Decay, or sorry, the second trophy over the Abrupt Decay. This is a keepable hand, especially on the play. I really like starting with like a Verdant Catacomb pass or an Overgrown Tomb tapped pass because opponents don't really have any idea what we're on. They might just think we're on Jund, for example. But the cat is out of the bag now, and our opponent now knows what we were on. If this resolves and we hit a Vizier, we win the game. We did not hit a Vizier. I don't want more mana, so Noble's not a good hit. Knowing I have 2 chords in the bottom is kind of painful. Cool news, though, is I can untap Devoted Druid, and I have Scavenging Ooze mana available right now. Hey, BladeMan69er, thanks for the subscribe. I appreciate this. This is awesome. Thank you very much. I'm going to have to add a emoji. If you can help me with that. Mission Gamer. Yep, absolutely rough start. Red decks will do that. I do think a Thing in the Ice Jace deck is, if I was going to build a deck to, beat my deck, it'd probably have Thing in the Ice and Jace in it. I don't think I want more mana, so we'll just do this. So our opponent actually could have died right there. They waited on that path. They could have, if we'd hit a Vizier here, they would have just been dead. If only we hit a Vizier there. I'd actually rather have the Druid in the graveyard just for Scoos and Eternal Witness potential. In a blind meta, do I think Finks or Knight is a better option? I do not think... so do you mean... let me clarify. Do you think Knight of the Reliquary or Knight of Autumn? Actually, I'll just answer both. Knight of Autumn, I think, is a fantastic... Yeah, I definitely should have saved the Float of the Mana for the path instead. I think Knight of Autumn is a fantastic sideboard card, an absolutely terrible mainboard card. The reason being that it hits our opponent's sideboard answers, it does not hit their mainboard answers. I'll attack here. I think I would rather have Duskwatch with 3 mana up. Knight of the Reliquary. Yes, I agree with Blademan. Knight of the Reliquary is better in this matchup right here, and it's better against Tron. Every other matchup, just really, if you just write a list of paper, if you just take a piece of paper and write, what games does Infinite Life win me? And if Infinite Life is winning you a lot of games, then you need the Kitchen Finks option. And also, beyond that, there's also... Ooh, wish I could hurt myself. Street Wraith. Wish I had Street Wraith right here. Opponent should have attacked there, in my opinion. Well, I did get through 3 bad draws. So Knight of the Reliquary is a fantastic mid-range card, but this deck Game 1 is not a mid-range deck. This deck Game 1 is a combo deck, and Knight of the Reliquary is not as good at being a combo card. I'm not going to attack here. I'm going to wait a turn for Gavany. So think about it this way. Would we run Tarmogoyf in this deck? And I think the answer to that is no. We would not run Tarmogoyf in this deck because what is Tarmogoyf? Tarmogoyf's a big dumb beater. Would I run a 2-mana 5/6? No, because I can't clear a path for it. One of the reasons why Black-Green X decks are so successful is between the removal, discard, and the Lianas, they can clear paths to get through and let their 5/6 punch. This deck can't do that. I mean, sideboard I can start path exiling stuff, so my 5/6 or my 8/8 Knight or whatever you want to say it is can hit something. And the toolbox answers that Knight has in Modern are not nearly as good as they are in Legacy, so I think that's just a holdover. Question. Opponent's tapped out. I can company right now and gain potentially infinite life. Infinite life does not beat Jace, once again. Now, so this is an example where Knight of the Reliquary would be better here, but in an open field, I still think Finks is better. Like if we'd played Burn and then Mono Red Phoenix, Finks is much better in both of those matchups. So, all right, if we attack, I think my line here is, what is 4 cards? I think I need to try to kill the Jace. Yeah, I think Township and Punch Throw, which means I want to drop this Noble. So they have 4 blockers, I have 4 attackers. If I lose a creature, I'm completely fine with it at the moment. If I lose a creature, that means I'm punching Jace. Terminus would be rough. But if my opponent doesn't block the Viscera Seer, which I am inclined to think they might not, then I'm not forced to activate Gavany Township, and I can hold up company. So if they do have a Terminus, I can company right after. It looks like at the moment they're considering not blocking Viscera Seer. Okay, they're going to. So now the question is, do I value Gavany or company more here? Really, it is, do I value Duskwatch Recruiter and Viscera Seer more than I value company? And I'm going to say no, I think I value playing company more at the moment. And I'll hold up 1 mana for Scoos. This effectively wipes their board and puts me in a pretty good spot unless they have a board wipe. But I can't beat Terminus anyway, so I don't really see the point in trying. Coco does have a higher ceiling play there. I did take a more conservative line. I don't think I want Scavenging Ooze in my deck still. Well, I definitely don't want a Noble in my deck. I think I would actually, so I'm going to be Cocoing. Assume my best line here now is to try to combo kill, so actually I'm okay with having a Vizier on top. And I would like a Duskwatch in the graveyard, I think, for an Eternal Witness loop. Finks does nothing. I don't even want him in my deck at the moment. I don't mind having Scavenging Ooze, I guess, in my deck. Okay. Post board will get a lot better. Like we would have had, without Terminus there, I think we were in a very good spot. And you can't really play around board wipes with this deck. They should have Fate Sealed there. They knowing that I spent all that effort to scry to the top, they absolutely should have Fate Sealed. And they would have Fate Sealed and been like, why do you want a Vizier on top? I'm fine with this. I don't know why our opponent is not Fate Sealing to close the game out. I have one card in hand. Sure. I'll fail to find. If they have a counter spell, this is pretty much over. And they should have a counter spell. They've been brainstorming this whole time. I'll look at my top deck. Top card. If it's another Coco, I might have a chance. Walking Ballista. 1, 2, 3. I can kill Jace. Yeah, maybe his hand is actually just worse than me. So I'll kill Jace and dig for a Collected Company or an Eternal Witness. But honestly, if his hand is so much worse, he can just attack with Colonnade and Fate Seal and keep me off balance. I think that would have been a better line for my opponent. A little pressure on the board. Yeah, I'm going to be dying to Colonnade here. No. But I don't even know if my opponent's going to attack with Colonnade. All right. Coco or I concede. And because I have a Cryptic in hand, I actually have to cast this now. That's game. So Infinite Life does not win here, so I will side out Infinite Life. Oop. Gideon is something I actually am very excited about in this matchup. Yeah, it feels bad, but it's going to happen. I mean, blue decks are probably our worst matchup. You know, between Thing in the Ice, Jace, and we're now facing 2 of those back-to-back. Without Terminus there, if our opponent, for example, didn't have Terminus, I think we won that game. That's like, you know, the same thing against Tron. If they have a turn 3 Karn and they're on the play, you are not winning that game. You're just not. There's just some things that we just can't do. I can't play around Terminus, so I'm not going to try. I don't think Scavenging Ooze is that important just to shut down Snap and Escanta. I don't think it's valuable enough for me. I am going to be all in on the Walking Ballista plan. This is a change from what I was running before against blue-white control. Post-board, I've had a lot more success if I just ignore the Infinite Life combo and focus and keep in chords to try and beat my opponent quickly. So I'd maybe do something like this. I'm not used to having 2 trophies in the board, so it changes my matchup guide a little bit here. In fact, I think I'd rather have a Knight of Autumn than a Skooz. Skooz does stop Snapcaster Mage, which is one of the ways that my opponent can beat me, but I'm just planning on grinding them out if we get to that point. So I want to combo quick or switch gear and just do a fair beatdown, which is a much worse plan B here. Yeah, post board, I think that if I can loop an Eternal Witness with, I'll keep this. If I can loop Eternal Witness and Trophy, I should just be able to run away with the game. Like right here, I actually have a pretty interesting line my turn 2 play. I can jam a Druid turn 2, or I can jam a Sin Collector and try to clear the way for a Druid. Let's see here. If I top deck exactly a Chord or a Vizier, the correct line here is to Druid. And actually, that is what I'm going to do. I'm going to Druid. Because my game plan here, again, is fast combo. And if fast combo does not work, then switch to a grindier plan. Okay, well, a little punished there, but I probably would have not taken a Spell Snare with Sin Collector anyway, so I'm fine with that, especially knowing I have 2 more Druids in hand. Okay, I'm going to do the same line, play a Druid, and pass my turn. Vizier for the win. Company. I think I have to company here. Okay, so we did it. Even if our opponent, well, I guess if our opponent counters the Duskwatch Recruiter, we didn't do it. But if they have a Spell Snare, I guess that would stop us. Spell Snare would still stop us here. So Andres, you can make a Snap Snare. Okay. So this, you can see here, I just want to highlight again, this is how very different from the way I originally had written my sideboard guide up. It's actually reflecting it now, and how to combat blue-white control. Previously, I took out chords because I had too much spot removal, but they don't actually have that much spot. Like, their shields are down pretty early until they can land a Terminus. They just have a couple paths, and that's about all we really have to worry about are the 4 paths for spot removal. Because sometimes they run Condemn, and that does nothing against me, so I'm not really worried about that. I like the Knight of Autumns as Finks replacements. They're much bigger beaters. So, interesting, our opponent didn't actually check to make sure we kept in Ballista. So we apparently could have sided it out. I think I keep this. This is not a fast combo hand. This is a very land-locked hand. But having Gideon and Company and Ewit, this hand is very powerful. If I didn't know what I was playing against, I would keep this hand. I could mulligan to a... My opponent did mulligan, so I could mulligan to a fast combo hand and try to cheese out a victory. I could... But this hand is so powerful, with my opponent mulliganing, leads me to 2 conclusions. 1, they are digging for a path. 2, they just have a bad hand and I should dig for the fast combo because they don't have a path. I'm more inclined to believe that because they just lost the way they did, they're digging for a path. I will keep this. So thanks, yeah, I did a, what was that, a turn 4? Turn 4 chat, turn 4 combo. I did a turn 1 Dork, turn 2 Druid. I believe they pathed the Druid, and then another Spell Snare, the turn 2 Druid. I turn 3 Druid, and then turn 4 Cocoed into Infinite. Opponent conceded before the... oh, that was a very good draw. I'm playing Bird here because Bird lets me cast black mana. Not as concerned about my life total here. I'm just playing Vizier as a beater, as nothing more. Yep, that's fine. That's one less mana leak to hit our Gideon or our company. I'm going to reiterate again, one thing I really like about this deck is if you can beat someone with a combo, they kind of get terrified of the combo. Here's what I want to pause. Do I play Gideon or do I end step company? Let's jump in the chat. 36 walkers confirmed it seemed for the new set. That is a lot. That is insane. Hey Days, how's it going? Have a dilemma here. I can Gideon now. Opponent displayed a mana leak, which shields could be down until they cryptic, or I can let them untap and then Coco. I'm actually inclined to jam Gideon here, and if they counter Gideon, I'll just punch him for 1 and go from there. Logic Knot for 2. Okay, that's fine. Eternal Witness can buy him back. No tears here. And I chose to tap the Horizon Canopy knowing it would cost me 1 life to trade 1 life with my opponent, even though I'm technically losing this race. I'm fine with that. Question here. 1, 2, 3. I think I'm going to play a Dusk Watch, hope they counter it, and then Eternal Witness buy back Gideon. Or I can Coco. I think I'm going to play Dusk Watch here. And then I'll be Cocoing. Get Coco countered, then Gideon? Sure, sure. I'm actually, oddly enough, I'm valuing the Coco more than a Gideon, which is interesting. I'm actually just going to get a basic here. Beautiful. I'm going to rebuy Gideon. I've been very impressed with Gideon recently. I've finally been able to cast him. Last night at an F&M, I'm going to attack first. Now I don't get punished in case my opponent snap Logic Knots. I'm just jamming Gideon. If they have the counterspell, they have it. I'm going to E-Wit next turn. Make a knight. Pass. So last night at F&M, I actually, 4 rounds, I went 3-1. My only losses were to Tron, which had the nuts turn 3 card in both games. And they were on the play. And I won with only 1 combo the entire night. I went 3-1. It was a Fink's Infinite Life combo against Eldrazi Tron. Everything else was just fair beatdowns. No Devoted Druid combos, nothing. It was just fair beatdowns the entire night. And I loved it. It's something I love about this deck is how well it can transition there. Checking the chat. I gotta do a better job of always being on top of the chat because if I forget it, I'm gonna miss followers and subscribers and things like that. Yep, I am not going to attack with Gideon because attacking with Gideon I think just opens him up to dying. I could draw a card here off of the Dusk Watch. I don't think I need to. I think I'm in a position of strength. I think I'd rather just have the 3/3 and be able to flood the board potentially here. The only way he can answer Gideon actually, Spanx. He can beat Gideon with Teferi or a Cryptic Bounce and then counter in the replay. So I'm just going to attack with this board. And the question here, so this is 4, 7. This is putting my opponent at half their life. I can Gavany now, or I can Gavany after I make the knight. Yep, also Detention Sphere also hits him, which is another reason why I'm just going to hold this Knight of Autumn for as long as I potentially can. I think my line here is to not Gavany. Instead, I'm going to play Eternal Witness and bounce back the Coco. It doesn't actually speed my clock up that much, putting my opponent at 3 versus putting them at 6 is the same. So I will make a Knight here. I might emblem him next turn if that's advantageous for me. I'll do this. I played the, I made sure to activate Gideon before playing the Eternal Witness, because if I didn't, they could have Cryptic Bounce and I wouldn't even get the 2/2 out of it. Yep. I like Gideon here because he's an answer to Terminus. They are going to bank hard on it to beat me. They've already Terminused once this game. Counterdraw. Yep, I have a feeling that they would not have counterdrawn if I had not activated Gideon yet. So I do not need to play Knight of Autumn. Knight of Autumn I'm going to hold in my hand as an answer to my opponent's best potential draws, like a Detention Sphere or something to take away Gideon. Interestingly that they chose not to Cryptic tap my team before combat. Now before I attack, I have a Chord. Chord changes everything. I can Chord and hit a Sin Collector and try to rip apart their hand there. I notice my opponent does have Celestial Colonnade as a blocker, but to activate him they have to go down to 5 thanks to the Flooded Strand. I could Emblem Gideon right now, but that would lose him and just lose me. I would lose a game to an Opt Terminus in that line, so I'm not going to do that. So I think my line here is to go to combat. If they block, let's say the best potential hand they have is Snap Path. They could actually Snap Cryptic would be the best potential line. And either way, to do that, I think the best thing to do is just go to combat here without Gideon. I am regretting at the moment that I corded out Skoos, took out Skoos, because if I actually had Skoos in the deck right now, I could cord for Skoos and eat the Cryptic before they have a chance to snap it. Cryptic tap draw. In response, do I want to spend my creature mana cording for anything? If I don't play a creature, I can cord for 2. If I could cord right now, get a Sin Collector. I still think that's one of my best things. Or I could just cord, get an Eternal Witness, and buy back Company. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, and hold up 3 mana, which doesn't do much. Sin Collector seems really good. It has to do it. Unfortunately, I have to do it before they get to draw that card. I could also get a Shalai, interestingly enough, which makes it so that they have to have Terminus to beat me. So I can have Shalai, which beats anything but a Terminus, right? I can have Sin Collector to check out their hand, what 2 cards they have. I think the best line here is just to go Sin Collector, though, even though Shalai seems pretty sweet. My board is pretty redundant. Okay, so they have Detention Sphere and Snap, so a little punish for not taking Shalai. Hey, hey, Hurlman, how's it going? Shouldn't I be working? I always should be working, but when I'm my own when I own the company, I can take a morning off, right? I love I love Friday mornings. It kind of remind me of like Saturday mornings as a kid, to be honest. So opponent is choosing to go snap cryptic, which makes me feel that keeping one scavenging ooze might be the correct line. I'm gonna go to combat, make them snap cryptic, and then detention sphere next turn. Yep. Yeah, scavenging ooze, cord for scoos would have been a great line there. Unfortunately. Hey Matt, shouldn't you be working? Shouldn't you be working right now? I'm glad to have you. So they're going to play the old bounce game. In response, I suppose I could dig for a trophy and try to trophy the snap. I don't see an advantage to that. I guess it would have countered their spell, but I guess it would have won me the game if I'd gone exactly into trophy there. We'll see. If the top card of my deck is trophy, then I should have done it. But I like having enough mana to activate Gavany Township, and I would not have enough mana to activate Gavany Township if I sacrificed Horizon Canopy. Yep, I'm going to be hoarding cards. I'm not actually going to activate Gavany here. I'm going to be digging with Duskwatcher Recruiter. My opponent will be just taking a couple turns off with Snap Cryptic Loops. They can snap Terminus, actually, right? Snap 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yep, 3, 6. They can snap Terminus. I think that's actually what they should do. Opponent not snap Terminusing seems like a mistake here. Okay, so we do not have Trophy on the top, so I was not punished. Yep. Same thing. I have 2 trophies, 2 out of 40. I can dig 1 deep with the Horizon Canopy. That's true. That is true. Gideon does become a 5/5, right? Yes, you're absolutely right, Days. Good line. That's probably why the opponent is not doing that. So if, once again, if the exact top card of our deck is Assassin's Trophy, we should right now, I should crack Horizon Canopy and kill them. Actually, nope, they're not choosing to bounce back Snappy. So, tap draw, so Trophy doesn't do anything. Playing for the win here with Druid. I guess I floated 1 mana too many there. Okay, so that's actually pretty sweet. We have Assassin's Trophy mana. So if our opponent had tried bouncing back Snapcaster Mage, we would have been punished by not doing that line. Yep. I love bouncing back Duskwatch Recruiter. It kind of reminds me of like a very bad Huntmaster. But we have lethal, not just on the board. We also have a lethal combo, so a Cryptic doesn't do enough. They need a board wipe here, and a board wipe. We still have Gideon and a trophy to deal with different things. So we're in a pretty good spot here. Detention Sphere doesn't do enough. Okay, do I want Druid in my graveyard? I don't think I do. How many basic lands does blue-white? How many basic planes does blue-white control run? Three. This version runs three. Let's check another. Three. Is that the standard? Because I can Assassin's Trophy their land right now and makes it so Path doesn't, if they don't have another 2 planes. Okay. And alright. Because I have a line right now where I can... Opponent's telling me they still have this in the bag. So, trophying their colonnade doesn't do enough, I don't think. I am running low on the clock. I think I have to go for it. What do you guys think? If they path Gideon, they path Gideon. Yeah, they have trash talk right now in the chat. Okay, they path them. Oop. I play so much slower when I'm streaming. And now I have lethal on the board. I can trophy their colonnade. They're going to Detention Sphere or something, which is a little painful. Or they're just going to cast Jace. So we've survived 2 Terminuses here. You think it was greedy to attack with the with Gideon? I think you have to go for the win there, right? Not attacking with Gideon just opens my opponent to have more stuff. Greed on them? How? Oh, well, by brainstorming? Yeah, they've been brainstorming the whole time. I think their correct line would be to Fate Seal or to bounce. They just need to make me use 3 minutes of clock to win here. It was many turns ago, and they'd drawn a bunch of cards. But I mean, what, they have like 2 cards in hand, maybe 3 at that point, and they had to have exactly path. And we'd already, I guess we hadn't already seen one. So, I mean, they had a pretty good chance of having it, but we wouldn't. When the line is you win the game if they don't have it, and it's not a great matchup, you kind of have to go for it anyway. They did not Detention Sphere, interestingly enough. I'm going to go to combat. I'm going to attack them. I'm representing lethal with Gavney Township. If they decide to activate Colonnade as a blocker and they don't have a path, we win the game. If they Cryptic tap right now... Actually, we don't have enough mana. I should have... Nope, wouldn't have enough either way. Opponent is basically telling me that they have a path in hand, so I am actually not going to activate Gavany. I'll let them act first here. Actually, I don't want... I'm just going to drop a Vizier here. Play the land, and then trophy on their turn. Opponent didn't have it. Actually, they brainstormed, so they might not have Detention Sphere in their hand, but that was greedy. That was very greedy. That means I think that the last card in their hand has to be a path, right? If they attack, that means they have a path. And my best draw is another Decay, another trophy, or something else. Yep, Ballista would be the best possible draw for me. Cryptic. Tap draw. Sure. Already played a land? Okay. So this was going to be a quick stream, so this is probably actually the end of the stream after this game. Yeah, never lucky. Couldn't draw Ballista right there. Opponent actually has lethal. If they see it, they do. So that is game. Okay, fell 0-2. Very painful, but you could see we had, against blue-red, we had a pretty good line. We could have won that match. We could have won this one too if we'd Coco'd into the right card, or opponent didn't have exactly Terminus twice. We beat the first Terminus. The second Terminus was what beat us. And actually, we actually could have beaten the second Terminus if they didn't have exactly Path also in their hand. So I think I'll have to go back and check. I think the lines that were taken were all correct. Maybe I shouldn't have against blue-red. I think that was the biggest questionable line I've made. I'll have to go back and check. I probably should not have attacked with the... I probably should have left one more attacker back, knocked my opponent to 8 instead of 6. Made it so that their out wasn't just Bolt. Let me know what you guys think there. Yeah, I think having exactly digging for Bolt, I think that I gave my opponent too many outs in that blue-red matchup. Hey, Tryhards 3, welcome aboard. Glad to have you. Thanks, Matt. Yeah, that last game was very winnable. Honestly, if we top-decked a Ballista, if we top-decked... like, Ballista would have been perfectly great there. If... Eternal Witness would have been pretty good. I appreciate it. I appreciate the follow. If they didn't have 80 Cryptics, yeah, I mean, the Cryptic loops got a little rough. We had lethal for so many turns there. Opponent having that path to hit Gideon was really what was painful. I still think it's right to attack with Gideon there, because if we, especially with my opponent taunting me in the chat, like, oh, I have the game locked up. Like, well, you're telling me you have a path. I don't know if I can trust you, opponent. You're trying to beat me anyway. Yeah. So fought against 2 J-Stacks. Actually, interestingly, fought against some matches where Knight of the Reliquary would have been much better than Kitchen Finks. But I still think Kitchen Finks is where we want to be in Modern right now, as opposed to Knight of the Reliquary. Defense grid. If defense grid is a creature, absolutely, and actually maybe not even at that point because Voice of Resurgence is very good, and the problem is it isn't what Cryptic. Cryptic isn't actually what killed me. Cryptic just was a time walk. Cryptic just slowed me down. What killed me was the Terminus. And if there was a if there was a Gaddock Teague that didn't hit me, I would absolutely run the heck out of that card all day long. Or if there was a Voice of Resurgence that was worded when it leaves the battlefield, not when it dies, because Terminus, the fact that Terminus gets around death triggers is really a pain in the butt. I think Terminus is the problem card we have in that matchup. Our opponent has a pretty good plan against us. Path Exiler combo early, and then Terminus or board late, land a Planeswalker and win. To be honest, I actually don't think blue-white control is a I don't think blue-white control is that difficult to pilot. It's really spot removal early, board wipe late, drop a Planeswalker to win. They do have to activate it on their turn. That's right. It does greatly limit the ability of Terminus, and they'll just Terminus on their turn. I think actually in both, I think when we lost the Terminus here, it was our opponent Terminusing on their own turn, so Defense Grid wouldn't have done that as much damage there. It's really just the redundancy of blue-white control. They have so much card draw and so much card selection. They're going to hit you with 1 to 2 paths, 1 to 2 Terminus over the course of the game. And if they don't do that, you win. But their whole deck is designed to do that. It's actually blue-white control is built in a manner right now, and this might be controversial, but it's my opinion, where it's akin to Tron. Tron's whole game plan is to not actually interact with you. It's not to do anything like that. They have interaction. Karn is absolutely interaction. Karn doesn't win the game. Karn interacts with your opponent. But Tron's whole game plan is cantrip, 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 cantrip until you have 7 mana, drop big threats. Blue-white control does the same damn thing. Blue-white control is cantrip, 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 a mild interaction thrown in there, sure, Path Exile. But its really game plan is just to stall and cantrip into a game winner. Tron does the same thing. I mean, Thought Not Seer, Walking Ballista, Oblivion Stone, Wormcoil Engine are all just manners in which Tron stalls so that they actually win the game with a bigger threat. Yep. Have a good one, Days. Yeah, Opt into Terminus and Cryptic. Yeah, it's pretty rough. Yeah, I mean, I wish it wasn't so. I used to play blue-white control for standard. I actually ran Gideon's in it. It was a Gideon blue-white control deck. Gideon, Jace Bellerin. I think I ran like a 1 of Sun Titan back in that standard block. I loved it. I loved the heck out of the deck. I ended up running Luminarch Ascension and some Spice, and I ran, when Proliferate was a thing, there's a 2-cost artifact. You can put a -1/-1 counter on something when it enters the battlefield, and then you can pay 4 mana, tap it to proliferate. I run drop Luminarch Ascension, some board wipes, some Gideons, and timely reinforcements to stall the game until eventually Luminarch Ascension would win. That was fun. That whole game plan, again, it was basically the same concept. You know, it was fun for me, probably not fun for my opponent. All I would do is land something, and Luminarch Ascension is a lot like Iskanta. So I'm playing a turn 2 do nothing card that eventually will take over a game by itself. I think this is part of the reason why we're not seeing as much mid-range right now in Modern, is that these control decks, Tron, blue-white control, have so much late game power and so much consistency. These decks favor consistency over anything else. Opt is not that great of a card. Serum Visions is also severely underpowered. Combo decks play those cards. People complain about Ancient Stirrings and Faithless Looting, but what do those cards do? They just make a deck more consistent. A big reason why Amulet Titan is so powerful is that it's so consistent. A big reason why Mardu Pyromancer and now Is It Phoenix are so powerful is they're so consistent. And blue-white control and Tron have that akin in that they are so consistent by having just so many cantrips that are going to get the cards that they run 4 ofs, which include Terminus, path, and then rebuys with Snap. Yeah, mid-range is in a weird spot where mid-range shouldn't lose to... Mid-range is going to lose to control, because that's just how the pyramid works. Control goes bigger. But mid-range is also losing to combo, which it's not supposed to, and mid-range is also losing to tempo, which I think is why Grixis Death Shadow is in a great spot, because Grixis Death Shadow can toe the line between a combo deck and a mid-range deck. So if you look at the most recent successful versions of Grixis Death Shadow, they are pretty much all in on TBR game 1. I think that there's a recent list that didn't even run Bolt main, bolts or side. So it's basically going, yeah, but even Shadow is an example, I think, of how Modern is positioned right now. Shadow decks ideally should be the police of the format. Thoughtseize, Stubborn Denial, Fatal Push, Dismember, Kolaghan's Command, access to Liliana's, all these things that should be great at policing the format, but they're being used in a manner that's not policing. They're being used in a manner just to make Shadow more powerful and redundant. The turn 1 Thoughtseize, oftentimes that line is just taking whatever... Game 1, oftentimes that turn 1 Thoughtseize is taking whatever stops your Shadow. So you can go drop a turn 2 Shadow and then hopefully do like a turn 3 or 4 TBR and win. That's the game 1 game plan of Grixis Death Shadow right now. It can switch gears, absolutely, and say, I'm going to control this. I'm going to take away your combo piece, take away your threat here. I'm going to take away your Terminus, take away your Teferi, and just play a very nice, fair game. But that's not actually how... It's more often working out in a manner where it's turn 1, take your Path to Exile. Turn 2, land my Shadow with this Stubborn Denial up. And what is Stubborn Denial doing? It's Force of Willing... It's Force of Willing in a manner, just like Delver decks, stopping you from killing my threat, which wins me the game. So it's not interacting with your opponent. It's kind of like Infect, stopping your opponent from interacting with you. Yes, Shadow is absolutely, right now, Grixis Death Shadow is being tuned so game 1 of the combo deck, they can side into a mid-range deck, which is very similar to what we're doing here with Collected Company. Game 1, we're pretty much all in on the combo. We have very few non-combo slots in the board, in the main board. And then sideboard, we're able to become a more mid-range deck, bringing in 6 removal spells and re-loop those with Eternal Witness to grind out a game. And Shadow is definitely way more interactive than Coco. I hope I'm not implying to anyone that that's what I think. My whole intent here is saying that the format is built in a way where game 1, you are not encouraged to interact with your opponent. Game 1, you're encouraged to stop your opponent from interacting with you. Speed matters game 1. Games 2 and 3, you absolutely... Then you can sideboard and bring in interaction, which specifically interacts with your opponent. Modern Horizon might fix it. Unfortunately, a lot of the Wizards' answers recently to try to fix the format or make it more interactive, make it more mid-range centric, have done the exact opposite. Fatal Push did a huge part in knocking Tarmogoyf out of the format. Fatal Push also made Jund better, but it also made Jund easier to beat. When Fatal Push was printed, Death Shadow became a bigger threat because now there's a 1-mana answer that cleanly answered Tarmogoyf that was not Path to Exile, which is not a great mid-range card. Now Fatal Push, people didn't want to spend 2 mana to have their opponent spend 1 mana to remove your threat. So Death Shadow became a lot better. When Death Shadow became better, it ended up evolving into Grixis Death Shadow because of Stubborn Denial. And Stubborn Denial was touted as this awesome interaction that mid-range decks now had to stop a Karn, to stop a Wrath of God. But really, Karn and Wrath of God, and those are the ones often touted as what Stubborn Denial is stopping, what is Karn and Wrath of God doing? They're not winning the game. They're interacting with you. So Stubborn Denial is being used in a manner which it stops that interaction. That's my whole thing there. End of the day, I think that turn 1 being very fast and modern is where we want to be, and then have a sideboard plan to grind out opponents. I think that's what Death Shadow's doing right now, and I think that's what Coco should be and is with my list is doing as well. This start of this league is obviously not great. I need to win the next 3 to clean up. Hopefully I can stream later and finish this league for you guys. But two J stacks was a little rough. I think we were in both games, which is important to me. The win-loss record obviously matters to me in testing, which is what this league is. But more importantly, I want to know that my game plan is effective. And I think my game plan in both matchups was effective. Post board, you can see I was a lot better in both of those matchups than the main board. Thanks, Ian. All right, so I'm going to sign off now. I will hopefully catch up with you guys in a little bit. Thanks for watching.